Hey guys, so I just want to make a quick video on how I get pricing data on sets so that you can make informed decisions. So I think most people they they start getting into Pokemon and at some point for whatever reason they want to start looking at prices and stuff. And there's different ways of doing it. Like let's say you're buying, you'll kind of just shop around and you'll see, hey, what are people selling for? Because and that's that's the real price. See, that's the price you can buy it for. And other people will look at, hey, what's the value of the set, um, and therefore you look at how much are the boxes selling for, how much are the if there's other products, how much are they selling for, how long's the set been out, and there's just a lot of factors that it's in the end like no one really kind of knows kind of what happens or how the set will perform, but there are like common signs, and so at a minimum, if you never get exposure to this sort of information, like it's a little harder to make the informed decisions. And but that's kind of all you can really do. Just get the informed decisions. But there are definitely resources you can use that are available that are free. And I think there's some paid versions. But pretty much like I have I think three or four sort of sites open that I'll look for pricing data. And if there's a more specific exact products I want to look at, maybe I'll go to other sources. But this is kind of this kind of overview of how you can do it for Terastal Festival. Okay, so first here I have price charting. So I found price charting because if you just Google something like Pokemon card historical data or historical trends, then usually I think the sites that could pop up are like price charting, TCG player, I think some like Pokedata, and those are the kind of the main three. I also check eBay and just Google just see like what it pulls up. But it's important because what I realized the other day, like I think I've been showing these Pokédata prices, and the pricing thing is not perfect. And actually, as you get into this, if you don't really know how markets work, you get kind of more exposure to markets. So, like usually when you go to the store, most people think of like, hey, there's eggs for $3, so the price is of eggs is $3. But actually, eggs usually have a range, because if you go to a grocery store at different times, like you'll see like, hey, no, that other grocery store selling for like 350 or 325 or just sale for 250, and so like kind of the most reliable like there's two forms of data. It's like what are the prices that are posted and what are the actual sales, and that's sometimes where a lot of data actually is. Sometimes when I know for stocks, if you the price of a stock is like kind of the price of it's related to kind of the last one that was sold. Like some people like to think of like, oh, what's the average price over a week, but sometimes you really care about the most recent price, and that's kind of more relevant in Pokemon. I feel like sometimes. So it's like give you an example like on Pokedata. I didn't realize this until like just recently. It says that the approximate price is 250, and they apparently pulled their data from eBay. Um, but it's important to sometimes at least just scroll down into the history a little bit, and you don't have to like fine tune all this, but you can get like approximation. Like the data is kind of up to date from like 1207, and that could either mean there weren't any sales since that date, and I'm recording this on 12/12, so it's like 5 days ago about. So that's a pretty long time because the set was officially released on 12/6, and like yeah, there's no I guess there's some sales like beforehand, but like most of the sales start around like 12/4, 12/5, 12/6. And so it's just kind of old data at this point. Like I don't really know that's the real market price because I knew that a Pokédex before it was about 350 and it dropped to 250. But the data is just kind of a data. And also, when you look at the data, it's like okay, so all these at 250? It's like well, this one's sold at 240. This was closer to 300. This was like 280. Then this was like 250, and then like 250, but then there's 300. So it's like you see like a range, and that's usually all you can really look at is like what's the range, and it just gives you an idea of like if I want to buy this card, what's probably like the bottom range of that on like a normal site, and if I want to sell this card, kind of what potential I could get if I waited long enough, I could buy appropriate buyer, or if I want to sell, like unfortunately you have to go closer to like the market price. Like if you go on TCG Player, you'll see like sometimes there's like listings for cards that are like way lower than the others. Like I guess maybe I'll look here if there's anything, but like it says a 370 and the rest are like these next to 375. Like why doesn't this guy just raise it to like 373? Like it's just lower than 375, right? But it's like this isn't a big dramatic thing. But let's look at the data over here. Um, yeah, like today it's sold for like 370, 360, 340. So like a TCG player, the price is going up actually. And so like this is more recent data, so I actually feel a little more confident. But also like what's the volume? So volume is a little tricky because if you have something like Surging Sparks booster boxes, like there's a lot of volume, so the pricing data is a little more accurate in a sense, but also not. Like sometimes like context helps. Like I know for a while, and sometimes I can get booster box Surging Sparks. They're cheaper at another place than TCG player because of the market works. Um, and so I can get it that way. Prismatic Evolutions, like that's not really the case. Like you can get it from other sites, but you literally can't get it. Like Surging Sparks, I feel like if you kind of wait around, I don't know recently, if you wait around, like you could find a deal for a while somewhere. Like and like it wouldn't be the greatest deal. Like if the box is selling for 180, maybe you can get it for 150, but it's still like a significant jump. So these are kind of just like margins of like sometimes 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 kind of thing. But it's significant because like I thought the Moonbreon was going down in price. A TCG player like it has context too. Like it's still relatively new. Like they just start playing Pokemon Japan. So like if you told me what's the value of this Umbreon, like I don't know, and it's sort of like what do you mean by that? Like what's the value long term? What's the generally accepted market price a week from now? Like what can I sell for today? Like those are kind of the real questions that you're kind of wondering, and what's kind of more relevant for you is sort of like how influences your box strategy. Because like as an investor, what could you do? As an investor, you're like, okay, why don't I just buy the boxes, open the cards, and sell the cards, and can I make more money from that? And then therefore you have to look at like, well, how much is the box going for now, and how much are the cards worth, and what are the pull rates, and do I have to get lucky, and do I want to do that, and like what about shipping and fees, and how lucky can I sell it, and all that stuff, and whatever. Like some of that is like your exact position, like how much capital do you have, how much do you like making content, whatever. And so like there's just a lot of factors, and that's why like investing is kind of a little different for anyone. Like I feel like there's a lot of like similarly category type investors. Like some people are like, I'll buy booster box, it's sealed product. Some people are more in singles. But like it's like what's the opportunity, and like what is like your preference? Like for me, like I don't really singles interest me in the sense of like, I know if I buy certain singles, like I'm interested in buying like the full arts of Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet and holding those. But like not really comfortable with that risk. I prefer like the more sealed product guarantee, like it usually goes up. But yeah, so like I just it's harder to make these decisions if we don't really know the pricing, and like then you get into world of other things like, okay, if I'm gonna sell, like how do I go on eBay, Facebook Marketplace? Is it better to flip short term, long term? And then you just get more and more exposure. So this is just sort of a video get more exposure, I guess. But like this is just opening up the world of like, hey, what did you get into? Um, and then because like the simplest way to invest in Pokemon usually is just get the booster boxes when they're cheap. This bull market, that's kind of hard, but if you bought like one or two booster boxes that release or like X amount, the same number amount, over time, like you don't even know much about Pokemon, you have to worry about price, any of that. Like just try to sell it when you can, like 5, 10 years down the road. Most people don't last that long. Like I've heard like most people who get into Pokemon have like a lifespan um, of like literally like let's say half a year to 1.5 years. I don't remember the exact range, but like Pokemon goes in ups and downs, like bull and bear markets. And usually, like right now, there's a bull market. So there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of people getting in because like 151 like was so popular. Like, oh, I remember Charizard, and oh my god, so much money's being made. Like like we bought Terastal Festival. I pre-ordered for 50. Like it's going down to like what 60, like 70, 80, 90, depending. And as before, I don't know the exact price. Um, and so you're like, oh, I could have just made quick money on that. And yeah. So, but eventually, at some point, like all the experienced investors say that the market is going to downshift eventually, and then when it downshifts, it's going to be like quite dramatic. Like people are going to start selling fast to get out of their positions because maybe they over leverage. Like, and then there's different risks with that, and then you'll see price plummets, and you won't see this like dramatic growth all the time. Okay, but anyway, so the first to get to the actual content of the video, the first site I have is price charting, and there's a lot of tabs open, but pretty much I didn't want to click all these like while I make the video, so I just but the issue is there's so many EVs, but over here, like I guess that's the market. Like there's been or there's been card lists of Terastal Festival. I didn't know for sure which ones would be decided, but like I would guess it'd be the EV evolutions, the SIRs, but like the Master Ball ones, like I wasn't sure how much their value would hold. So according to this price data history, like the Master Ball Umbreon is actually more valuable than the Umbreon Full Art or the SIR, and that is even listed on the Poke data I was looking at. So I didn't really know. Like I could hear about it because I do watch other Pokemon content, but like I didn't know. And then like you'll just see like comparable prices of other things like Sylveon and the Master Ball are similarly priced, and then so like if you're interested in opening, it seems like for a lot of these, according to this data, they're similarly priced. The SIR and the Master Ball are similarly priced on a lot of these. But if I want to go to the data, like this is the Master Ball Umbreon, and like there's only been so many sold, but some of these are recent sold. Like this was yesterday, so two sold, and so like this gives me at least some sense of the liquidity. Um, So, because that's something that you want to look at. If there's only one data point, like that's not really much. There's at least a few you can get at least some trends. So, like say yesterday it sold around 285. This is 300. These don't always include shipping and taxes though. There's other things. So, like a lot is just like approximate data in a sense. And before that, it was selling like it. Most of the sales are not below 300. Like this was 299.97, so that's about 300. This was just $15 less, but everything's been about 300. So like this is, it seems like it's going lower because these were like 350s over here, but this is just a days of data. So like in this, when you have the initial start where there's not a lot of data, like it's very volatile. And that's sort of, but this is kind of what you can do at this point. And the Umbreon has way more listings, like the SIR. I'm guessing it's probably more available. I think the Master is probably a little harder to pull, I'm guessing, but that's just a guess. But like, so these were sales on eBay from yesterday. So these were about 300, 270, and before that, like a lot, there's still more like 200s. Like I see a lot more 200s over here. So this was like 3 days ago. So there's three sold on the 10th at like 270, and there's one 300. So yeah, it's like I wouldn't say though it's like the market price is 250 yet. Like I don't see many that are sold for 250. Um, I'd say you can get 250, but a lot of times that's more like one off seller. And the way these things work is that people undercut each other. So I think that if you want to get out your position and sell because you think it's going to go down, because that's actually what happens with a lot of these early cards, like the prices go down. Um, like you could just sell it for that. And then like price charting also tells you PSA data. Um, so it doesn't have any data on that, but apparently it says that there was like at least some PSA 10 around 500. So sometimes it's good to know the PSA 10 price, because then like if you want to be a grader, so there's people who invest in that. Like you can see that, you can look into that. That's the Umbreon, the Sylveon. Um, it's this was this was around like 150 according to price date the other day, and like I've been seeing around 100 or 120, and yeah, like it does seem to be a little less. Like these are like this is 110 or 112, but these are about 90, 100, 90, and there's like this really high one, 170. But yeah, it seems to be around 100, maybe less than 100. Like yeah, this is definitely showing like signs of weakness. And then the Master Ball one also not a lot of sales, but yeah, it's been decreasing, but it's about there haven't been any sold lately. Um, the booster box I wanted to look at because it seems like the singles are getting lower, a lot of them are, but the booster boxes are getting higher. Um, so yeah, there was one that sold for 100, but it seems like there's a bunch of these were like $72, 80, 75, 8. Like I just feel like we're getting closer to 80s. If you just look like broadly, like a bunch of 80s down here, but yeah, there's a bunch of 65s to like sometimes 80, sometimes it's 70. I'd say it's around 70, 70 in the 70s somewhere is the current price. But when I do look at eBay, directly. Um, the ones I see are usually more like honestly 80 and 90. So like there's just some sort of like discrepancy. Um, but yeah, that's why like anyone can list anything. But it's just nice to know, and it's also like the reason why people do this is because the prices do jump dramatically sometimes in the span of a few days. So like even though the price data from like yesterday was like 70, like if most of the listings are like 80, then the price is kind of 80 in a sense. So like there's always like this division. I think they call it the spread or something between what was it actually sold for recently and what's the current price people are trying to sell it for. And then there's usually some resistance in that. Um, but I don't know if I want to go through all these. But yeah, um, the EV doesn't have recent price data. I want to look for ones that have recent price data. So like, yeah, this one only has one. But yeah, a lot of these. The Glaceon has some more recent ones. So this is like from yesterday, and so this is around like 50, like 40s. But like their range is like 40s to 60s still. But like there's a range. It kind of depends on how much people sell it for. And then Umbreon, there's some listings. It seems like there's only a couple set on eBay. At least I don't know how they gather this data, but from like what I see, like there's only like a couple a day. This is kind of old. If there's no recent like listings, either the data is kind of old or not updated, or um, car is just not as popular. But yeah, there's only so many listings recently. Um, it gets more clear if you see something with just a lot of stuff. But yeah, it seems like some of the Master Ball ones get a little delayed. Um, like a lot of them stop around the 9th or 10th, which is like 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah, at least stop at the 9th. This is like 11. A lot of SIR stop around 11. Like there's no sales from today. Oh, this Master Ball one was bought today. Um, I've been interested in like this Raging Moon and the Raging Bolts, Aurora Moon and Bolt. It's about 30. It's been hovering like 20 30s, and then this has been like also it's 16. Seems wait actually I think 16. I think the 50 one is actually the weird one. Yeah, I think it's this is close like around $20 card normally right now. But yeah, that's price charting. So yeah, I went through like the individual cards. Like even I don't have time to always go through all those. I just want to close some of these tabs because I have them way too open. Um, but yeah, like if you want to like usually what people look at, like I just sort by price, and I just get to see this is like the approximate price that they estimate. To see a PSA 10 column, but only the Umbreon has been sold at the PSA 10. But yeah, you get an estimate of like how much you think the set is worth. All right, next is Pokemon Center. I mean TCG Player, and the prices. I think with TCG Player, the prices seem to be a little higher a lot of the time, especially for Japanese cards, because I think it's just newer and the market's just newer. And on it, in my opinion, so it's just a guess. I think that like some people who buy a TCG Player, honestly, are people who are just kind of looking for like it's just kind of their comfort zone. Like TCG Player isn't just like a normal scammy website. I think there's like protections or just versus like you can get cheaper on other sites, but a lot of people entering the hobby like they're like, I don't know which sites are good, but I trust TCG Player, and I feel like that's part of the reason why like you can go here like especially with the Japan stuff coming out. Like a lot of them are like where do I buy Japanese cards and like, I know where to buy English cards, but like so I'm just gonna pay whatever TCG Player has, especially in this hype. So like there's just like you have to just know the market a little bit. Like there's even if you know all this, like I wouldn't buy these prices because I know that like they're cheaper other places, but other people like are willing to risk it, aren't willing to risk it. But yeah, like the prices are high. Like the Umbreon is like that's like 360, 370. A lot of these EVs, I see them for like no, this one's kind of accurate. Although like it's closer, like we saw it was like 100, so it's like $10 or $20 difference, and this a lot of these other ones are around 50. It's called Pikachu. I was interested that people really like this. Same thing with Surging Sparks. People But I heard that it's harder to pull surging sparks, which is also why. And then the price is like 80, and then yeah, but a lot of these cards like they're just way higher than but it's like the Flarion's a little more appropriate price. I guess like there's also the market price. I guess this Leafeon. But some of these like they're just at least like $10 more. And like the Roaring Moon Raging Bolt, I guess they're about the same price. But yeah, like also like the Master Ball one, I don't think they have the Master Ball listed here. It's probably because like there's like less people on TCG Player selling. But yeah, like I did look at this, and the data was at least like nice and recent. Like there's three sales here. If you see like a little picture here, it means that there's usually some caveat to the sale. Like maybe it was like lightly play, like not lightly played, but usually like I wouldn't treat that as a real sale. Cause like for example, booster boxes with that symbol, sometimes it's just 36 loose packs. Which if you're just opening, it's fine. Like, but market value 36 loose packs are not the same value as a booster box. Especially long term. Um, but yeah, the price on TCG Player is going up. Like that's 360, 370. These were like 340 the other day, and then 325 and 4. But yeah, but there's only been so many sales. But it's interesting because I feel like there's more sales on this Umbreon here recently than like there were on eBay, or at least according to price chart. There's Jolteon here. Um, I think that there's only one sale, so that's just not very helpful, and that's probably why the market price is so high. Um, and then this Sylveon, yeah, it has more recent ones. You get a sense like which ones are more popular too. But yeah, it's like 110 here and then like 115 here. It's going a little down. You get a sense of like who's actually selling. Sometimes it's also interesting to look at like which sellers are more like reputable or which are newer. Because like but there's more like new people coming to this hobby, and so just like your buying experience will just be a little different, but also your buying opportunities will be different based on that. A lot of new people will want to just sell, just to make the profit, um, but they're probably a little less professional. I don't know about that, but like, there's definitely different circumstances. And this Glaceon, um, yeah, three for about 100. And yeah, like I mentioned the image, like this one, so that's photos. I guess it's actually just photos. Some people use photos for grading plays because they want to see if they can estimate if it's a PSA 10. Because like in theory, right? You know, there's all these sales. Like if I knew which ones of these are PSA 10s, I would just buy them and grade them. But like it's not that. It's probably not that easy. Gold Pikachu, and like you notice on TCG Player, like the price data just from here on the graph just goes from 2 days ago or 8 to the 10th, so that's 4 to 4 days ago. But like you can actually see the more actual sales here, which I that's what I really like. Like there's actually like data here. Um, and the box is probably the one that's really good to look at. So you know, there's only one bar here, and this is from like the 8th to the 10th. But you can see like the popular, like all these sales are from today, 12/12, and like I'm recording this at like 3 p.m. right now, so it's been a lot. It's a lot of sale. But it kind of makes sense. The booster box is kind of the main products. But yeah, this like these are a lot of like $80 prices. That's like pretty consistent. You just look at these and you kind of get a sense of like how many are available. But yeah, I'm gonna not go through all these. I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Okay, so Poke data. Yeah, I already looked at this. So I told you guys that these prices seem a little inaccurate because some of the data is just a little old. Unless they do update their prices based on the latest data, which it could be possible. They might not. They just might not put this. And it does say login for latest data. That could just be like a account thing. But yeah, like by default, if you just go to this, the data is gonna be a little off. Um, yeah, this is like I do like this. It's just a quick view of like which ones are most expensive. I think Roaring Moon may have gone up a little bit in like ranking, but I'm not sure. It might have been there before. I don't really know what would have outpaced it. So maybe not. I think it was in that position before as like the 11th top chase card. Um, Other thing I wanted to mention was so for some of you, I said that there's different reasons for looking at pricing data, and one of the reasons is in this case you have the opportunity because Japanese boxes come out before English boxes. Like they use the cards that are in Japanese boxes, and they don't necessarily make them 1-to-1. Sometimes they use like two Japanese sets, but they do like add the cards from the Japanese ones to the English ones. The English ones are usually more expensive, but English products are usually more expensive, so it kind of evens out. Although for Prismatic, actually, it's like the regular ETP for Prismatic is probably around 10 packs, let's say, but the high class set in this sense is only 10 packs. Usually, like the other sets will have like 20, 30 packs, and like the box of Terastal is getting to like $80, and Prismatic is like 100. So if you get MSRP is 50. It's just like the pricing is just totally weird there. Like I'm sure Prismatic's gonna go up if Terastal keeps going up because usually the English packs are more expensive, but that's you don't usually see that. Like it's the Super Electric Breaker for Surging Sparks is only like $50 a box for like 30 cards, 30 packs, and a 36 pack booster box is like 200, and that's it's almost the same number of packs, but it's like 50 versus 200 roughly. You get like four Super Electric Breaker, so that's just kind of it's kind of crazy. But yeah, if I want to look at like since I said like sometimes you can base yours like all you really have is the historical data you have, and so sometimes what I'll do is that I'll look at the prices of um, the Japanese and English counterparts and see how things do. Like the Pikachu over here is listed at 240, and then here it's 480. So I noticed when I looked through this, a lot of these cards are like kind of just double in price, like from English, like Japanese to English. Like this gold Pikachu, 54 over here. It's like one. Actually, this is like a quadruple. Well, so this was the outlier I mentioned earlier. This gold Pikachu is rarer to get. Like I think it's even harder to pull than this Pikachu. Um, and I don't know, sometimes there's just things like people really like the card in English versus Japanese. But if you look at some of the other cards, I think, which I could be wrong, but yeah, Paradise Dragona is the other set that has Surging Sparks cards. This is 92. Um, and over here it's like two, so it's a little over twice. Um, there's some things that happen, like the Milotic is 154 here, but when I search over here, like technically it's not here. Actually, I think it said not enough data available. So that's also why you want to look at multiple sources for data. Um, but I do think it is more expensive in English. And then so that's kind of the analysis I would do, but I think a lot of times it's sort of like which cards you actually care about because like you don't care about every card. Like when I look at total set value, like that's nice, but sometimes like you just Surging Sparks is just so much hype because there's a lot of chase cards, and like sometimes you take it for granted until you get to like another set that doesn't have a lot of chase cards or expensive ones, and then you're like, oh, actually maybe this is a really good set. I noticed that like Evolving Skies, it's like Evolving Skies back in the day or something. Even for me, I was like, when I started getting to, I was like, is this Evolving Skies such a good set? Why aren't people buying it out? Like, why am I still able to buy it for like 140? Because that's why I started looking into it. I think it was like the last reprint run, and it's like at that point, like even like a simplified decision from an investor of like it seems like the best set, and I want to get it. So sometimes you look back and you just look at sets and you're like, let's see, like Lost Origin, like has like aren't these like some people are like you could judge it like oh it's not guaranteed really good stuff, it's like 420 versus like you look at like Battle Styles isn't doing as good. I think some of the cards in Battle Styles look okay, but then you just look at hey I think some of these look cool, but then it's like oh I guess some people don't like these. But like there's history, and then like with the history you can kind of see like is this a potential, is this just like not valued because it was overprinted, is it because the Pokemon are popular, and these are just sort of things you use to make your guess. um okay, so but yeah, I would estimate that a lot of the cards in Japanese might be like double in English, but like there's different factors involved, like the Master Balls and all that stuff, so like it's not 1-to-1. But it's definitely worth. I feel like it is worth if you did get an okay price, like in your MSRP systematic, just see what happens and just get some position in. Because I think by the time you wait until release day, it'll be a little too late. Prices have been kind of stagnant. I feel like the ETB is like 100's really high, but you see a stagnancy. Like there's this over here. I think it'll eventually rise up. Um, but yeah, and then as far as like pricing goes, like there are like some sites that will tell you estimate values. It's like this Poke Beach article had one. But yeah, this kind of went longer than I thought it would. But yeah, this just sort of video on pricing data. If you guys have any topics you'd like me to go over, I'd be happy to. Have a good day. Bye.